Hey, what's going on, my boys? Gunsblazing back at it again. Today we're going to have a different style of video. The commentary isn't going to be focused on the PvP. We'll still have some juicy Last Combage Desert Twister going on in the background if you're into that. But mainly I wanted to discuss something that's pretty important, and that is the future of this game, the future of Duel Links. Now, you might not agree with all of my opinions here, that's fine, but I do encourage you to go into that comment section, let your voice be heard, comment your own opinions, and like other people's comments that you do agree with, because Konami does have an eye out. They do keep an eye out for my videos, so who knows, maybe your opinion will influence what Konami does for their game in the future. So there's timestamps on the side if you want to, skip to a certain topic. Let's get it started. So the first issue that I want to talk about relating to the future Duel Links is there's going to be way too many packs in the near future. We already have like 15 packs to keep track of. And of course, some structured decks that, don't really matter. But in my opinion, this is too much for new players or players returning from a long break to get into the game. Which, that's not too much of a problem. They can easily look up information on what cards are important and what cards are relevant. But the bigger issue is that players have to dive into older packs just to pick up the cards that are important today. Like, for example, going back into Ultimate Rising just to pick up Sonic Bird or, a Sphere of Bola. And going back for these cards essentially screws people over because they literally just go back for these specific cards. Everything else in this pack is literal garbo. It's power creeped and it's useless in today's meta, compared to if you're buying a newer pack where the general card quality is higher. So this is a problem that's only gonna get worse as, they keep releasing more packs. So yeah, I don't really know what Konami wants to do about this or if they're gonna do anything about it. It is still a viable choice to not do anything about it, but there are some alternatives. For example, Hearthstone, what they do is from time to time they take out the oldest pack or packs in the game. So essentially they rotate it out. It could be permanently or it could be, seasonally. They'll just take out a pack from the game. You can't buy anything from it. You can't use any cards from it in duels. And those cards can still be, traded out for in-game currency. So for example, you could sell those cards for gems just so that they're not completely useless once they get rotated out. This may or may not be the right solution for Yu-Gi-Oh though, because I know that Konami likes to go back to older archetypes and buff them by introducing new cards that make the old archetypes stronger. So another solution for this would be to cut out the older packs but select a few cards in that pack that will still be available for use, and putting those cards in a trader or a separate trader with a new currency. But basically they'll take the cards that are most popular in that pack or the cards that will be relevant in the future thanks to archetype buffs. And that will essentially clean up, the older packs while still keeping the cards that will be useful in the future and the cards that are still useful currently. And then new players don't have to shaft themselves by, going into packs where everything is power creeped. Alright, so next issue, let's talk about how this game is speeding up. The game is definitely speeding up. A lot more duels are coming down to turn 1 or turn 2. The duel is decided by turn 1 or turn 2. And I know that it's supposed to be a speed duel format, but how fast is too fast? And it's not just that the duels are fast, but the top decks out right now, I'm talking Cyber Angels and Ninjas. Let's throw Ojama King in there too, because it kind of functions the same way sometimes. They not only end games quickly, but they all have ways to limit the opponent from being able to respond or stop them from doing that. And on top of that, they're quite consistent, meaning that the fast 2 or 3 turn duels where your opponent can't do anything will happen more often than not. And the thing is, it's probably going to keep heading in this direction due to the nature of power creep, more busted cards, faster duels, better skills, less interaction. Now, some people might not mind that. I personally do, because I like being able to make decisions in strategic card games, and I like when the game isn't a coin flip simulator. Now, obviously, you can't remove RNG from card games because luck is always going to be a factor, randomness, etc. But with that being said, every good card game needs a balance of the randomness aspect, the RNG aspect, with the decision-making strategy aspect. So if this is the direction that Konami wants to go, then so be it. I'll probably still be playing regardless, just suck it up. But for me, it takes a lot away from the original charm that Duel Links brought. It's becoming less about, outplaying outsmarting the opponent, and more about, did the coin flip land in my favor? Do I have the nuts in my hand? I'm talking like when you've reached a certain point where your opponent knows how to play their deck and they're playing top tier decks. Like for example, the KC Cup environment is a good example to this. The duels can often boil down to, just the opening hand. Did they open with the right cards? Do you have the answers? Did the coin flip go in your favor? And that brings us to our next topic, which is expanding the game. Will expanding the game be the solution to Duel Links being too fast or too uninteractive? And by expanding the game, I mean expanding the monster trap zones from 3 to 5 and the spell trap zones from 3 to 5, possibly increasing the starting light points from 4,000 to, 6,000 or 8,000, because let's face it, 4,000 isn't standing up to nothing today. Cyber Angel Dakini plus 1 Searcher, that's 4,100, and Black Dragon Ninja just cuts through the light points like butter due to the fact that it can get multiple attacks in the battle phase. Now, I'm not saying that I want the game to go in this direction. As a matter of fact, I think it's unlikely, and I also think that fewer spell and trap zones and fewer monster zones is good, because you'll reach a limit and then you'll have to make a decision on what you're going to set and what you're going to keep in your hand in terms of what traps you set or what monsters you play. But it is a possibility, and it does raise some interesting questions, like if this does start happening, if they do expand the zones and increase the life points to say 8,000, then won't Duel Links just slowly become the TCG? And we're unsure if that's the direction Konami actually wants to go. Maybe they don't want Duel Links to be like the TCG. Maybe, Duel Links is their second try, per se, of Yu-Gi-Oh! And they're trying to avoid the design mistakes that they made with the TCG. But on the other hand, maybe they do want Duel Links to become more like the TCG and pull in the players that are still playing the physical card game. A lot of mystery surrounding this topic. I personally don't think they're going to add more zones in the near future, but we'll see. Next up, I want to talk about the turn 1/turn 2 problem. And this is self-explanatory. Turn 1 has a clear disadvantage in comparison to the turn 2 player. And this problem has become more pronounced due to the decks that we're seeing today, which are even more reliant on the coin flip, like Cyber Angels. Yeah, pretty much Cyber Angels are the root of all our problems. Just kidding, but not really. But let's take a look at the example of the Cyber Angel mirror. So the turn 1 Cyber Angel player is most of the time screwed because they can't Dakini anything on the board. That's already a disadvantage because the opponent has no monsters on the board on turn. And then they also have less chance to have the Edatin-Benton combo in their hand because their starting hand size is 4 cards and they don't get to draw a card in their draw phase. In comparison to the turn 2 player, which can use Dakini's effect, has an increased chance of having the Edatin-Benton combo because they get a card in their draw phase. And that's pretty much the entire story. Turn 2 gets 1 more card than turn 1, which matters a lot since the starting hand size is 4 cards. Therefore, turn 2 always has more consistency. They can interact and destroy with the things that the turn 1 player puts on the board, and they can attack player 1. Turn 1 doesn't have a card in their draw phase. They don't have anything on the board to destroy. They can't attack player 2. Turn 1 does have some advantages though. For example, they can be proactive with their back row, one of the few advantages of going turn 1. Oh, and cheesing. Cheesing with Ojama King Cyberstein combo. But with all things considered, turn 2 player has a lot of advantages in comparison to turn 1. How much of an advantage in terms of win rate we won't know unless someone studies it or Konami releases some statistics on it. But could it be time to buff turn 1? Give them a card in their draw phase. Maybe increase their starting life points. Who knows, just buff turn 1 in some way so I don't want to kill myself every time the coin lands on heads. It will need a lot of testing too and a lot of thinking on how to actually help turn 1 players, but giving turn 1 a draw does come with its problems too. Now, I'm actually pretty doubtful that they'll do anything about this one because if they want to buff turn 1, they're going to have to change the actual mechanics of the game, which have been in there since Duel Links started. And the solution is not as simple as, giving turn 1 player the draw, because that could actually make turn 1 way too powerful. They now have more potential to build a crazy board on turn 1 that you can't respond to. It increases the consistency of those turn 1 cheese decks such as Neo Daedalus and Ojama King, which is going to be another problem. It doesn't come with an easy and quick fix. There's got to be a lot of testing involved if they're actually going to do anything about it. And the last thing I want to talk about is we need a new summon in Duel Links. I don't know, that's just for me. We've been playing with fusions, rituals, Geminis, if you consider that as well in the list of fusions. We've had those for quite a while now, and I wouldn't mind a new kind of summon to add a little more spiciness to the game, you know? Now, I don't think there's any clues right now as to when they're going to add a new summon into the game, and they might not even do it in the same chronological order that they did for the TCG. Who knows? It's Duel Links, so we might see Link summoning first, especially since that's what they tried to use to fix all the extra deck summoning going on in the TCG. But yeah, personally, I'm itching to see a new dimension of play added into the game. Some new flavor, because it's getting a little stale, so I hope Konami adds one soon. And yeah, that's all for today, guys. Hopefully you join into the discussion on the future of Duel Links. Enjoy the rest of the footage, and I'll catch you on the stream later tonight. This is gunsblazing, signing out.
Bring you out of the darkness into the fiery light.